A choice of discipline. It was a cool Monday morning, and I woke up earlier than usual. I looked at the clock and realized that I still had plenty of time before my day began. Instead of getting out of bed immediately, I thought about sleeping for a few more minutes. My bed felt warm and comfortable, and I did not feel like waking up. At that moment I remembered something Arjun had told me a few days earlier. He had said discipline begins with the small decisions you make every morning. His words stayed in my mind as I looked at the ceiling. I knew that I had two choices in front of me. I could either go back to sleep or start my day with discipline. I took a deep breath and slowly got out of bed. It was not an easy decision, but I felt proud that I had made the right choice. I did not know it then, but that small decision was about to change my life. After getting ready, I went outside for a short morning walk. The streets were quiet and the fresh air made me feel calm. While I was walking, I saw my best friend Arjun coming towards me. He smiled and asked, "You are awake so early today. What happened?" I smiled and replied, "Today I decided to choose discipline instead of comfort." Arjun looked pleased after hearing my answer. He said that is how every successful journey begins. I asked him, "Can such a small decision really make a big difference?" Arjun nodded and said, "Every great achievement starts with one disciplined choice." His answer made me think more deeply about my daily habits. As we continued walking together, I realized that discipline might be the key I had been searching for. That morning became the beginning of a journey that would completely change the way I lived. Next morning, I woke up before my alarm rang. This time getting out of bed felt much easier than before. I smiled because I remembered my promise to myself. I quickly made my bed and got ready for the day. While I was having breakfast, I kept thinking about discipline. I realized that one good habit could lead to another. After finishing my meal, I packed my bag carefully. I checked everything twice before leaving home. I wanted to become someone who was always prepared. As I stepped outside, I saw Arjun waiting near the gate. He smiled and said, "You seem different today." I replied, "I am trying to build better habits every single day." He started walking beside me with a smile on his face. He asked, "What made you change so quickly?" I thought for a moment before answering his question. Then I said, "I finally understood that small habits shape our future." Arjun nodded because he completely agreed with me. He said most people wait for big opportunities instead of improving themselves. His words made me think more deeply. I realized that success begins long before people notice it. It begins with the choices we make every single day. I looked at the road ahead with new confidence. I felt that I was walking toward a better version of myself. That morning gave me another reason to believe that discipline was truly the key to success. As we continued walking, Arjun asked me about my daily routine. I told him that I often made plans but did not always follow them. Sometimes I started my work with great motivation, but after a few days, I slowly returned to my old habits. Arjun listened carefully and then asked me why that happened. I admitted that I usually lost motivation when things became difficult. He smiled and said that this was a common problem. He explained that motivation could help us start, but discipline helped us continue. His words made me think about the times I had given up too early. I realized that I had been depending too much on my feelings. I wanted to change that habit and become more consistent. For the first time, I understood why discipline was more important than motivation. Arjun told me that discipline did not mean working without rest. It meant knowing what was important and doing it at the right time. I asked him how I could develop this habit in my own life. He suggested that I should begin with one simple routine. He said, "Do not try to change everything in one day." I understood that trying to do too much could make the journey difficult. So I decided to choose one habit and follow it every day. I would wake up on time and complete my most important task first. It sounded simple, but I knew that consistency would be the real challenge. Arjun smiled and said that small actions could become powerful habits. I felt ready to test his advice in my own life. I did not know how much this small routine would change me in the days ahead. The next day, I decided to follow the routine Arjun had suggested. I woke up on time and immediately got out of bed. I made my bed and prepared everything I needed for the morning. For the first time, I did not wait until I felt motivated. I simply started because I had already made a decision. After breakfast, I sat down and began my most important task. At first, everything seemed easy because I was feeling fresh. But after some time, I became distracted by my phone. I picked it up and started checking messages without thinking. A few minutes quickly turned into much more time. I suddenly realized that I was losing focus. I put my phone away and reminded myself why I had started. I understood that discipline was not only about starting a routine, it was also about protecting that routine from unnecessary distractions. I continued working and slowly regained my concentration. After finishing the task, I felt satisfied with myself. I realized that controlling small distractions could make a big difference. Later that afternoon, Arjun asked me how my new routine was going. I told him about my problem with the phone. He smiled and said, "You have already learned an important lesson." He explained that discipline meant choosing what was important over what was easy. His words helped me understand the real meaning of self-control. I decided that from that day forward I would be more careful with my time. I knew that building discipline would take time, but I was ready to keep practicing. The next few days were not as easy as I had expected. I started following my routine, but sometimes I felt tired and wanted to skip it. One morning, I woke up feeling lazy and unmotivated. I looked at the clock and thought about staying in bed for a little longer. Then I remembered the promise I had made to myself. I knew that missing one day could make it easier to miss the next one. So I got out of bed and started my morning routine. I did not feel excited, but I continued without making excuses. After completing my first task, I felt much better. I realized that action could create motivation when motivation was not already there. That small experience taught me something important about discipline. I understood that consistency mattered most when I did not feel like working. Later that day, I met Arjun and told him about my difficult morning. He smiled and said, "That was probably your most important practice so far." I looked at him and asked why he thought that. He explained that discipline was tested when things did not feel comfortable. He said anyone can follow a routine when everything feels easy. The real test comes when you have a reason to stop. His words made me understand my morning in a completely different way. I realized that discipline was not about being perfect every day. It was about returning to the right path whenever I made a mistake. I thanked Arjun because his advice was helping me understand myself better. I decided to continue my routine even on difficult days. From that moment I stopped asking whether I felt motivated and started asking whether I was committed. Over the next few weeks, I slowly became more comfortable with my new routine. I started waking up at the same time and planning my day in advance. Every morning, I wrote down the most important things I needed to complete. This simple habit helped me understand where my time was going. I stopped trying to finish everything at once. Instead, I focused on one task before moving to the next. At first, following this routine required a lot of effort. But after some time, it started feeling natural. I noticed that I was wasting less time during the day. I also felt calmer because I knew what I needed to do. My work was becoming more organized, and I was completing tasks on time. I realized that good time management was another important part of discipline. One evening, I showed my routine to Arjun and asked what he thought about it. He looked at my list and smiled with approval. He said, "You are not just managing your time, you are managing your priorities." I asked him what the difference was between the two. He explained that time was limited, but priorities helped us decide how to use it. His explanation made me look at my daily routine differently. I realized that I often spent too much time on things that were not important. I decided to give more time to learning, working, and improving myself. I also planned some time for rest because I understood that rest was important too. Arjun said discipline is not about filling every minute with work. He added, it is about using your time wisely and staying committed, disciplined to what matters. I nodded and realized that I was slowly learning how to take control of my own day